And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey folks, I'm Tom Vasel, and today we're taking a look at Crown of Emara. Now I have to say that this cover and the picture here and the name, this did nothing for me. Like, you want to be the next king. Oh my! That's a new original theme. Ooh, what will I have to do? Will I have to get resources and change them in for points? Well, yes, actually. However, the cover of this game, when I opened up and looked at the boards and the pieces, I was like, well, this looks really good. I was very intrigued with this game after looking at the inside of it. The cover did not necessarily, portray that. But none of that really matters, right? Is the game good? Let's find out. In this game, there are two boards that are going to be placed here. Each board made up of 4 sections that are randomly placed. Each player is going to start with one of their guys in the quadrants of each board. Players also are going to have 9 action cards. Each round of the game, players are going to be drawing 3 of these cards, playing these 3 cards, and then going through all 9, and then you'll shuffle them and do it again. Do that twice for 6 rounds over the course of the game. In each round, the first thing that's going to happen is a random event's going to happen, like here everyone gets a stone, here everyone gets a wheat. Something might happen this round if you go to a certain location, some sort of event. Then players are going to take turns, going from the starting player round, in playing one of the cards from their hand. They will play that card in one of the open slots that they have. So as time goes by, there are going to be fewer slots. They're going to take the action on the card, and then they are going to move one of these workers in a clockwise direction, exactly that many spaces, and take the action of where that person goes. Now the cards themselves are pretty simple. This one lets you move someone around one and take another action besides the moving. Some give you a resource, take a wood, take a wheat, take a ring, take cloth, take stone. This lets you buy a card or buy a person for 1 less resource. This lets you take the action of any of these even if your guy is not there. And this lets you trade in a resource for a coin or 3 resources for 2 coins. So these are pretty simple. When moving around the board, this board is also extremely simple. When you move on this board, whichever spot you stop in, you're going to get a resource of that type. Then, if you have built any apprentices, there are 3 buildings for apprentices. If you have an apprentice there and you land there, you will get another resource of that type, or you can turn in a wheat and take a bread token at each of the spots for each of your people that you have in these houses. Over here, things are slightly more complex in the city. Each spot is going to be very different. In this spot, you can turn a resource in to get a coin. You can also turn a book in to get points, depending on how many books you turn in. So speaking of points, let's take a look at this point scale here, because this is kind of the focus of the game, and this will help make everything make more sense. Kind of a random thing at the beginning of the game. Players are going to start with their buildings here on a score, usually 35, could be 40, could be less. And they'll start with their person down here. Now both of these are going to be moving. Over the course of the game, you get building points and people points, and at the end of the game, your score is going to be whichever one is less. You say, well, wait a minute, your building starts at 35 here? Well, yeah, but it's easier to get people points over the course of the game, as is this area I just showed you where you get people points. If you go here, you can turn in a book for building points. You can also take a ring by paying a certain number of resources of any of the types, but once you do that, you'll then rotate it, making it more expensive for future turns. Same thing over here, you can get a book for resources. You'll also get the top 3 tiles from this pile and get to keep one of them. All this it means is when you make your guy go to that spot on the rondel, you will get whatever it says here. So when I go to the church, I'll get 5 building points. When I go here, I'll get 3 people points. If you go here, you're able to turn in bread for people points, or you can turn in a rock for building points and people points, but you're going to get fewer each time because these are going to rotate down as the game goes by. Now, also at each location, you have the opportunity to buy these folks. When you buy them, they cost a certain number of resources. They're going to give you something immediately, and for the rest of the game, they're going to give you, sometimes they'll give you a bonus. Like this guy gives you 2 people points, and every time you get building points for the rest of the game, you will get an extra 2. Or this guy here gives you 5, and for the rest of the game you can always, once per turn, turn in a cloth for 2 more people points. And these will get replaced with A's and then eventually B's, where B's are just going to be a whole lot of points in various types. And of course they're going to cost a lot of resources up here. You also have the opportunity on your turn as a free action. Buying one of those people is a free action. You can also get a title. You have to start here at the beginning, get the Baron, that just costs a ring. Then a count, a ring and a coin, and so on and so forth. Each of these decks, except for the first one, is descending, which means the first person to get the marquee is going to get 15 points, then 12, then 10, and 8. And you have to do these in order. And that's pretty much what you're doing over the course of the game. Just going to take turns and going around and around and around. And at the end of 6 rounds, you'll add up any end game scoring that you have, moving some things, extra resources, moves your different people up here. Essentially, at the end of a game, each ring will let you move one of your 2 point trackers, and then these resources will let you move one of your point trackers here too. That's it. Whoever has the most points on their lower scored piece is the winner. I really like how this game looks. I really like the top-down look here, especially of the city and how you can see the little people here. Everything looks good. The resource tokens themselves are not just cubes, they're nice. And again, you have that top-down look. I don't know, I like how these boards fit together, and all the pieces are really good quality. The art on the cards is fine, but the art on the boards is just phenomenal. It looks really good. Everything's really easy to move around. Everything's easy to see and keep track of. You have your own little board here with slots to put the cards in that feels satisfied. Each board has 2 different pictures of artwork on them, so you can pick what you want your noble to look like. They're pretty much the same. And then your cards not only have the different colors on them, but the different kind of slight change in the coat of arms, but these are very easy. We did not have to keep looking at them and go, what does that mean? What does that mean? The book does. The rule book has an explanation of what all the cards do, but once the game gets going, you very rarely have to look everything up. It's fairly easy to figure out how things work. The symbology is very clear. So once again, we have one of these games that's, it's theming, I guess, but essentially it's just a bunch of mechanisms. That's what we tend to call these Euro games. Now this one looks good, like I said, which is really nice because there's a lot of these games that look boring these days, and this one really looks good on the table. But what about the way it works? Most of these games come with some sort of gimmick or some sort of draw. What's the draw in this one? It's taking the card and using the action on the card and also picking which of your guys to move around. Moving the guys around, you'll notice at one point I called them a rondelle. That's the gaming term for having a track that you're moving a piece around, usually in a clockwise fashion, and where you land, you get to take an action. That seems pretty simple. 3 cards, 3 slots, that's 9 choices on your first turn. But there's more than that because you can move either rondelle. So it's not just 9 choices on your first, and it's really like 18 choices, or maybe a few, I don't know how many there is. But you're sitting there trying to figure out which person to move. Now it's pretty simplistic. I'm moving the person on this one for resources. I'm moving the person on this one to take these actions. I want to take actions as quickly as I can because the cost for getting points goes up considerably as the game goes by, and those dials are going to tick down, and I'm going to need, I get more points if I do things quickly. I want to get building points, because I'm going to need to get them over the course of the game, but I also want to get those people points. I want to get cards that give me special abilities. The whole game just flows really smoothly. The rings, the coins, by the way, are wild. You can use them for anything, so they have another use. And the rings are used in a lot of the events. You can spend a ring to get things, so they have dual purposes. And like I said, I don't know that a lot of this stuff really means much outside the game, but in the context of putting out those cards, that's the hook, and it keeps the game flowing quickly. You take an action, go. Sometimes you'll sit there and your brain will screech to a halt because you'll sit there and go, I want to get that and then that. And you can play the card action first or the movement action, and that matters a lot sometimes as to which you do. And it makes for a very meaty, interesting game, but not a game that's that complex. I get this stuff, turn it in for that. I get this stuff, turn it in for that, and get points each time. And I like that. Now, there are two variants that can make the game even more interesting. One is you have all 9 cards in your hand. You don't draw 3, and you can pick any of the 9 to play. Gives you a lot more strategy, but guaranteed to slow the game down. Another is you can mix the rondels up. I'm really intrigued to try that. I haven't played that way yet, where you can have resources and city pieces on each of the rondel. That's kind of fascinating to me. It won't look as aesthetically pleasing, though, but still, kind of a neat system, but that would really, again, make the game even more crunchy as to which piece you move at any given point in time. I like this one. Again, there's no question the aesthetics and the beauty of the game certainly help what is essentially, kind of middle of the road. It almost makes it sound bad. It's not, but and run of the mill is. I want to say it's better than that. This has a different feel. It's one of those games that gives you that action over and over again, but that look and the way the game is presented helps elevate it even more for me than in that regard. Because again, there's a lot of these games out there, and I will forget about a lot of these games when I play them, but this one I'm going to remember, if nothing, for that top-down look. But it's not just the look that interesting. I have this card. I'm going to play this card, try to set myself up for later, and I'll take an action, and my turn's going to come back around. And I'm also a big fan of this. You have 2 tokens in a track, and you're trying to get one farther than the other. So I don't know how many games from Benjamin Schwer that I've played before. This may be his first game, but either way, it's a really good, solid entry. So if you looked at the cover and say, what does this game offer that's new? That whole card play thing is pretty interesting, and this is an upper midweight game that I think a lot of people are going to like. I'm one of them. Crowd of Emara, recommend it. Dice Tower Judgment, approved.